I never thought I'd be sharing this story, but here I am, trying to make sense of how my life turned upside down. My name is Mike Anderson, and 2.5 years ago, my wife Amanda dropped a bomb that would change everything. It was a quiet Sunday evening when she approached me, her yoga mat still rolled under her arm from her evening class. "Mike, we need to talk," she said, those four words that always make your stomach drop. I was in my home office, reviewing financial reports as usual, but something in her voice made me close my laptop immediately. She sat down across from me, her usually confident posture slightly hunched. "I want us to try an open marriage." The words hit me like a physical blow. 15 years of marriage, two beautiful kids, and a life we'd built together. All suddenly felt like they were balanced on a knife's edge. "If we don't try something different," she continued, her voice trembling slightly, "I'm afraid we might end up divorced." The D word made my blood run cold. Our kids, Tommy and Sarah, were just 10 and 8. The thought of their world being torn apart was unbearable. I asked for time to think about it, but Amanda's ultimatum hung in the air. Adapt or lose everything. After 3 sleepless nights, I agreed to her proposal, but I needed some ground rules to maintain my sanity. First, I said, no bringing dates home. This is our family space. Amanda nodded, seeming relieved I was even considering this. Second, we don't date anyone we both know. No friends, family, or colleagues. Another nod. And third, this stays between us. The kids can't know, and neither can anyone else. She agreed to everything, perhaps too quickly in retrospect. That night, I moved my things into the guest bedroom. The thought of sharing our marital bed while she dated others was too much to bear. The next few months were a blur of work and emotional numbness. I threw myself into my job at the investment firm, increasing my hours from 50 to 74 per week. Every spare moment not at work was devoted to the kids, taking them to soccer practice, helping with homework, anything to keep my mind off what Amanda might be doing. The promotion I'd been chasing for years finally came through, along with a substantial bonus. I channeled all my energy into our finances, paying off our mortgage, car loans, and credit card debt. I set up college funds for both kids, and even started savings accounts for their future home down payments. Money became my way of maintaining control when everything else felt chaotic. Amanda seemed frustrated by my lack of interest in dating, but I was too focused on securing our family's future to care. Then came the turning point. With our debts cleared and investments solid, I finally felt secure enough to scale back my hours to 30 per week. That's when Amanda suggested borrowing money for a bigger house and a new car. I refused. The freedom from debt felt too precious to give up. Instead, I took Tommy on a cross-country road trip, just father and son exploring America in my reliable old SUV. We visited national parks, ate at quirky diners, and had the kind of conversations that only seem possible on long drives. When we returned, I started renovating our basement into a man cave, a project that had been on hold for years. I joined a gym, started playing basketball again, and slowly began to feel like myself for the first time in months. That's when Rachel entered my life. I met her at a local art gallery during their weekly jazz night. She was the curator, and something about her quiet confidence drew me in. We started talking about the exhibition, modern abstract pieces that, honestly, I didn't understand at first. But Rachel's passion for art was contagious. She didn't just explain the paintings. She helped me see the stories behind them, the emotions captured in color and form. We exchanged numbers, and for the first time, I considered actually using the freedom Amanda had insisted upon. Rachel and I started meeting for coffee, then gallery openings, then concerts. She loved comic conventions as much as fine art, could discuss both Shakespeare and Star Wars with equal enthusiasm. We connected on a level I hadn't experienced in years. That's when Amanda's behavior changed dramatically. Suddenly, she wanted to know everything about my dating life. I caught her going through my phone one night, reading my messages with Rachel. The argument that followed was explosive. "You're getting too emotionally involved," she accused. That wasn't the deal. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. "What deal?" "The one you forced on me." Amanda's face flushed with anger. "I want to change the rules," she declared. "Any relationships outside our marriage should be purely physical. No emotional attachments." She also insisted we should start sharing details about our partners, something we'd specifically agreed not to do before. The hypocrisy was staggering. For 2 years, she'd had her freedom while I focused on our family. And now that I'd finally found someone I connected with, she wanted to change everything. I refused. "I'm not interested in hearing about your dating life," I told her, "and I'm not going to discuss mine with you." But Amanda wouldn't let it go. She suggested marriage counseling, wanted us to start sleeping in the same room again, tried to recreate date nights like we used to have. It felt like watching someone try to close the barn door. Long after the horses had bolted, the counseling sessions were a disaster. Amanda threatened divorce if I didn't agree to her new terms, then accused the counselor of taking my side when they suggested. Her demands were unreasonable. She wanted to find a new counselor, but I was done pretending we could fix this. The truth hit me during one particularly heated session. We hadn't opened our marriage 2.5 years ago. We'd ended it. Everything since then had been an elaborate charade. Two people playing at being married while living separate lives. I'd become emotionally numb, focused on being a good father and provider, while Amanda explored her freedom. Now that I'd found something real with Rachel, Amanda wanted to change the rules of a game I never wanted to play in the first place. The final straw came when Amanda suggested we take out a second mortgage to buy a vacation home. She still wasn't working, expecting me to fund everything, while she dictated the terms of our relationship. That night, I contacted a divorce lawyer. The papers would be ready in a few days. I gave Amanda 2 months to figure out her finances, after which I would stop supporting her lifestyle. Looking back, I realized the moment Amanda suggested opening our marriage, she was really asking for permission to end it. I just wish I'd had the courage then to see it for what it was, instead of agreeing to an arrangement that only prolonged the inevitable. The hardest part wasn't the divorce itself, but explaining to Tommy and Sarah why their world was changing. We told them together, keeping it simple and age-appropriate, emphasizing that both their parents still loved them, and that none of this was their fault. They took it better than I expected, perhaps because they'd sensed the distance between us for years. Rachel has been incredibly understanding through all of this, never pushing for more than I could give, just offering steady support and friendship. Maybe someday we'll explore what could be between us. But for now, I'm focused on healing and being the best father I can be to my children. The irony isn't lost on me that Amanda's attempt to save our marriage by opening it up was actually what finally gave me the strength to admit it was over. Sometimes the hardest part of loving someone is knowing when to let them go. And sometimes what feels like an ending is really just the beginning of something new. I've learned that marriage isn't just about love or commitment. It's about wanting the same kind of life, sharing the same values, and being willing to work together toward common goals. When those things aren't aligned, no amount of rule changing can fix what's fundamentally broken. These days, I'm working my normal hours again, spending quality time with my kids, and slowly learning to trust in possibilities again. The man cave I built has become a favorite hangout for Tommy and his friends, while Sarah and I have started taking art classes together on weekends. Life isn't perfect, but it's honest now. And maybe that's what I needed all along. Not an open marriage, but the courage to be open with myself about what I really wanted from life. Amanda and I are learning to co-parent civilly, though we keep our interactions focused solely on the kids. She started dating someone and I find I genuinely hope she finds what she's looking for. As for me, I'm taking things one day at a time, discovering that sometimes the best chapters of our lives come after we've had the courage to close the ones that aren't working anymore. The future is uncertain, but for the first time in years, I'm actually looking forward to seeing what it holds. I never imagined I'd be sharing something so personal, but maybe my story can help someone else navigate their own family drama. I'm Ashley Mitchell, 26 years old, and working as a software developer. What happened at our family dinner last month still feels surreal. It was supposed to be a typical gathering at my parents' suburban home, the kind we've been having monthly since my sister Brittany's wedding. The dining room was filled with the usual aromas of Mom's pot roast, and everything seemed normal until my brother-in-law Tyler started acting strange. "You've been working out, haven't you, Ashley?" he said, his eyes lingering uncomfortably on my body. I shifted in my seat, trying to ignore the comment, but he continued throughout dinner, making increasingly inappropriate remarks about my appearance. The worst part wasn't even Tyler's behavior. It was how everyone else at the table just sat there, pretending nothing unusual was happening. My sister Brittany, his wife of only 4 months, was right there beside me, yet she said nothing. Our parents maintained an awkward silence, focusing intently on their plates. I left early, feeling sick to my stomach, but the unease followed me home. After an hour of pacing my apartment, I decided to message Brittany. "We need to talk about Tyler's behavior at dinner," I wrote, explaining how uncomfortable his comments made me feel. I offered to speak with him directly if she preferred, wanting to handle this as delicately as possible. Her response the next day changed everything. "Can we meet for coffee?" she asked. I agreed, expecting an apology or explanation. Instead, she dropped a bomb that left me reeling. "It had all been a test. We wanted to see how you'd react," she said calmly, stirring her untouched latte. "And you passed." I sat there, stunned into silence, trying to process what she was telling me. My own sister had orchestrated this whole thing, had instructed her husband to harass me, just to test my loyalty. When I finally found my voice, I asked her why she would do something so twisted. That's when the real story came out, the dark history that had apparently justified this test in her mind. For years ago, Brittany had been married to a man named Jack. I'd known him longer than she had. He was actually my friend first, and I'd introduced them, thinking they'd be perfect together. They seemed happy at first, their wedding photos showing nothing but joy and promise. When they offered me their spare room while I looked for an apartment, I gratefully paid, happy to save money on rent, while being close to my sister. But something strange started happening in that house. My underwear began disappearing, first just a piece here and there, then more frequently. I kept asking Brittany if she was mixing up our laundry, but she denied it every time. I was buying new underwear, almost weekly, try to convince myself I was just being forgetful. The truth, when it finally came out, was worse than I could have imagined. Jack, my former friend and Brittany's husband, had been the one stealing my underwear. When confronted, he confessed to more than just theft. He admitted he'd never really loved Brittany, that he'd only married her to stay close to me. I was horrified, disgusted, and heartbroken for my sister. I immediately pressed charges against Jack, got a restraining order, and supported Brittany through the divorce. Or at least, I thought I had, sitting in that coffee shop, listening to her justify this cruel test. I realized she'd been harboring a very different version of events. "You must have encouraged him somehow," she said, her voice cold and accusatory. "Men don't just do things like that without reason." I felt like I'd been slapped. I was the victim, I protested, tears of anger and hurt burning my eyes. "How can you possibly blame me for what he did?" But Brittany wouldn't hear it. In her mind, I had somehow been responsible for her failed marriage, and this test with Tyler was her way of proving it. When I got home, I FaceTimed my boyfriend Alex, who was away on business in the States. As I told him everything, his face grew darker with each detail. He was furious at how they'd treated me, and his anger helped validate my own. The next day, my mother called. Instead of the apology I desperately wanted to hear, she defended Brittany's actions. Your sister was just trying to protect herself, she said. You should understand that after what happened with Jack. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Did you know about this plan beforehand? I asked. Her hesitation was all the answer I needed. My own mother had approved of this scheme, had sat there watching while Tyler harassed me, all to prove some twisted point. The family meeting that followed was a nightmare. My boyfriend came with me for support. Thank God, because I needed it. In front of everyone, my mother admitted she'd known about the plan from the start, had actually encouraged it. Brittany remained completely unrepentant, insisting she was justified in her actions. Tyler, at least, looked uncomfortable, especially after my father threatened him. But his mumbled explanation that he'd just been trying to keep the peace rang hollow. My mother's final betrayal came when she suggested I was exaggerating my reaction to the whole thing. You should be glad you passed the test, she said. Now we can all move forward. I looked at her, really, Lou? Kidded her, and asked if she loved me as much as she loved Brittany. Her hesitation broke something in me I didn't even know could break. I made my decision then and there. I told them all that until I received sincere apologies, I wanted nothing to do with any of them. My brother and father still live with my mother, so I'll have to figure out how to maintain those relationships without crossing paths with her. Alex has invited me to spend the holidays with his family in the States. I haven't met them yet, but after everything that's happened, I'm looking forward to the possibility of a fresh start. Tomorrow, I have an emergency therapy session. I need help processing all of this. Need to understand how the people who should love me most could justify such cruel manipulation. The hardest part is accepting that sometimes the family we're born into isn't capable of giving us what we need. Sometimes we have to create our own family, built on trust and genuine love, rather than obligation and manipulation. I'm grateful for Alex, for my therapist, for the friends who've rallied around me. They've helped me see that I'm not overreacting, that my feelings are valid, that I deserve better than what my sister and mother did to me. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I'm done letting other people's trauma justify their abuse of my trust. I'm done being the scapegoat for my sister's failed marriage. I'm done pretending that family loyalty means accepting unacceptable behavior. Maybe someday they'll understand what they did wrong. Maybe they'll offer those sincere apologies I'm waiting for. But until then, I'm focusing on healing, on building boundaries, on creating a life filled with people who respect and value me. Because that's what real family does. They lift you up, they don't tear you down. They trust you, they don't test you. And they certainly don't orchestrate elaborate schemes to prove their twisted points. I'm learning that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is walk away from toxic relationships, even when those relationships are with family, especially when they're with family. I've been staring at this blank document for hours, trying to find the right words to tell my story. I'm Emma Carter, 31 years old, and I haven't spoken to my sister Sophia in 10 years. People say time heals all wounds, but some betrayals cut too deep for healing. It started when I was 15, the year I met Ryan Matthews in sophomore year biology. He was the kind of boy every girl noticed. Captain of the basketball team, honor roll student, with a smile that could light up the whole classroom. But he noticed me, the quiet girl who preferred books to parties, who spent lunch breaks in the art room, sketching dreams into my notebooks. We fell in love the way teenagers do, completely, absolutely, without reservation. For 5 years, Ryan was my everything. We grew UP together, planned our future together. When he proposed during our sophomore year of college, I thought I was living a fairy tale. My sister Sophia helped him plan the proposal. She was 19 then, living at home while taking community college classes. She seemed so excited for us, helping Ryan choose the ring, suggesting the perfect romantic spot by the lake. I never suspected she was sleeping with him. The truth came out 3 months after the proposal. Sophia was pregnant with Ryan's baby. She told me over Sunday dinner, like she was announcing a job promotion or a new car. "I'm pregnant," she said, "and Ryan's the father." The silence that followed was deafening. My fork clattered against my plate, the sound echoing through our dining room. Like a gunshot. "It just happened," she tried to explain, tears streaming down her face. "We didn't mean for it to go this far." But it hadn't just happened. They'd been sleeping together for over a year, starting shortly after she turned 18. All those times she helped him plan romantic surprises for me. All those conversations about wedding plans. She was betraying me in the worst possible way. I left the house that night and never went back. Blocked both their numbers. Deleted all our photos. Tried to erase 5 years of memories. A year later, Sophia reached out. She had a daughter by then. Wanted me to meet my niece. She should know her aunt, she pleaded. I met them once at a coffee shop. The baby was beautiful, innocent of her parents' sins. But looking at her face, all I could see was Ryan's smile. The same smile that had once meant everything to me. I told Sophia never to contact me again. She and Ryan stayed together long enough to have another child, as if trying to prove their betrayal was worth it. Our parents initially cut ties with Sophia, but gradually reconnected because of the grandchildren. I understood their choice, but I couldn't make the same one. Some might call me bitter, say I should forgive for the sake of family. But they weren't there when I discovered that every happy memory of my first love was tainted by my sister's betrayal. They didn't feel the humiliation of realizing everyone in my small town knew about the affair before I did. 10 years passed. I built a successful career in advertising, married a wonderful man, had a beautiful daughter of my own. I thought I'd put it all behind me. Then my parents called last week. Sophia had been living just 20 minutes from me for the past 2 years. They'd kept it from me, knowing I didn't want to hear about her. But now she needed help. She'd lost her job. Her landlord was evicting her, and she had nowhere else to turn. My parents thought I should help her find work or a new place to live. "Think about the children," they pleaded. "Do you really hate your sister that much?" "Yes," I answered honestly. "I do." They called me Hartle. SS said I should be the bigger person. But they forgot one crucial detail. Sophia wasn't just the other woman in my relationship. She was my sister, who helped plan my engagement, while sleeping with my fiancé, who watched me try on wedding dresses, knowing she was carrying his child, who stayed with him long enough to have another baby, as if to prove their love was worth destroying mine. Some betrayals can't be forgiven. Some wounds don't heal. And some sisters don't deserve second chances. I made my peace with that decision. My life is good now, filled with honest love and true loyalty. I won't risk that peace for someone who never valued it in the first place. Let someone else be the bigger person. I'm done measuring myself against other people's expectations of forgiveness. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for ourselves is to accept that not all relationships can be saved. Not all bridges can be rebuilt. Not all sisters deserve to be sisters. My daughter asked me once if she had any cousins. I told her no. Sometimes a clean break is better than a lifetime of reopened wounds. Sometimes the only way to heal is to accept that some people are better left in the past. I know my parents think I'm being cruel, but they weren't the ones betrayed by someone who should have protected them. They weren't the ones who had to rebuild their entire understanding of love and trust from the ground up. So no, I won't help Sophia. I won't open that door again. Some might call it hatred, but I call it self-preservation. And after everything that happened, I've earned the right to choose who gets to be part of my story and who remains a cautionary tale about the price of betrayal and